2010 election road trip. I'm Nels Jensen, the Director of Content and Programming for the Press Enterprise Company. We would like to thank our candidates for participating today, our audience here in the auditorium, and our audience live on PE.com. We're doing 25 candidate forums this week across western Riverside County. We'd like to thank our sponsors who helped make this possible, the Beaumont Cherry Valley Recreation and Park District, which hosted us on Monday in Beaumont, the Mount San Jacinto College, which graciously hosted us Wednesday in San Jacinto and Thursday and today here on the Menifee campus. This is being shown live on PE.com and Ustream.tv. All of the forums also will be available on demand on PE.com on the politics area of the website. We have simple rules for our forum. Each candidate will get a 2-minute introductory statement. We'll do questions and answers. We'll have 1 minute for each of those answers. Before we begin, a quick note about today's forum. The first one today is on the Lake Elsinore Unified School District race. The district is one of the oldest in Riverside County and in Southern California. The district educates more than 21,000 students in Lake Elsinore, Wildomar, Canyon Lake. The district has 13 elementary schools, 2 K-8 schools, 4 middle schools, and 3 comprehensive high schools. There are also 4 alternative high schools. It has a budget of more than $153 million and employs more than 3,000 people. The district has had great success in the classroom and in athletics, but has had to make painful cuts over the past year. There are 3 seats available on the 5-member board. Let's meet the candidates. They are seated in order as they appear on the ballot. To my immediate right, Tom Thomas, School Board President, Stan Crippen, retired school teacher, Kim Joseph Cousins, businessman and accountant, Heidi Dodd, businesswoman, and Ralph Hernandez IV, accountant executive and educator. Candidate Amy McMahon is not here today for this forum. We will now take the time to allow each candidate 2 minutes for an opening statement. Tom?
Thank you, Nels, and I'd like to thank the Press Enterprise and Mount San Jacinto College for this opportunity. It's exciting to be in this new technology on the internet. Again, my name is Tom Thomas. I'm currently president of the school board in Lake Elsinore. I've been on the board for 6 years and been president 3 of those 6. I'm a resident of the Lake Elsinore area, been married to my wife Dee, who's a retired school teacher for 27 years. Our son has gone through the Lake Elsinore school system, is now at UC Santa Barbara. I think it's fair to say I've been a community leader in Lake Elsinore for almost 30 years through my associations in business, through the Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary Club, and of course the school board. Currently, I am semi-retired and I'm executive director of Cops for Kids, which is sponsored by the Sheriff's Department here in Riverside County to help disadvantaged children. The Lake Elsinore School District has an excellent reputation, and a lot of that reputation has taken place over the past 5 years in terms of a marked improvement in test scores, in operations, and in surviving the financial difficulties all school districts have without reducing opportunities for students. And it's our teachers and our classified staff and our management that has certainly made the difference the past 5 years. One of the most important decisions a school board can make is the hiring of a superintendent. And 5 years ago, we had the opportunity to hire a new superintendent who became a visionary in assisting our school district in getting out of program improvement, which was one of the rare districts in California to do that. Our test scores have improved astronomically. I think as I said before, we've weathered this financial storm with major cuts. And I think we find that our parents are happy in our school district with the progress we've made. Our students are succeeding. Our high school exam scores are excellent. Kids are graduating from high school, moving on to college. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom. Next, we'll hear from Stan Crippen.
Hi, my name's Stan Crippen, and my wife and I moved from Orange County in 1975, planning to go back the very next year, and never returned. Our 6 children were raised in Lake Elsinore, and we had all of them graduate from Lake Elsinore Unified School District schools. I've served as a teacher at Elsinore High School for 33 years, and I retired 2 years ago to serve as an educational consultant for Riverside County Office of Education. I can echo what Tom said in the respect that the school district is very well respected throughout the county as I visited other schools, and I've especially worked with some PI schools, and there's some wonderful things that are going on in Lake Elsinore. Education has been my life. I feel like I know students and I know schools, and I was appointed in June by the board to fill Sonia Wilson's spot, and it's been a great experience. I've enjoyed working on the board, and I've enjoyed visiting the schools, and hope to continue to be able to do that.
All right, next we'll hear from Kim Cousins.
Well, good morning. First, let me say thank you to the Press Enterprise for inviting me to this forum. My name is Kim Joseph Cousins, and I've been married to my wife, Corinne, for almost 27 years. We have 2 daughters that graduated from Elsinore High School, and I have 2 grandchildren that will attend Lake Elsinore District schools within the next few years. I am presently the proud member of the school district, school board, and president of the Lake Elsinore Valley Chamber of Commerce. My degrees are in accounting and management information systems. I am pleased to report that during our tenure on the school board, that the district, with the help of our teachers, support personnel, administrators, and students, has moved from the 11th highest performing K-12 district to the 3rd highest performing K-12 district out of 23 districts. I have ensured during these tough economic times our students have the resources they need. Smaller class size has remained. Only 2 teachers have been laid off in the last 2 years. No programs have been cut. We've maintained safe schools, all while reducing our spending by over $30 million. I am very connected and active in our communities and passionate about providing a world-class education. Thank you.
Okay, Heidi Dodd.
Well, hello, good morning. My name is Heidi Dodd, and I'm the 3rd generation of my family to graduate from Elsinore High Schools. So I have deep roots here in this community. My children currently attend school here. I have a 3rd grader at William Collier Elementary, and I have a freshman at Elsinore High School. My husband, Stephen, and I have been married for 17 years. I'm a businesswoman with over 20 years experience creating and implementing million-dollar budgets, working with a diverse range of people, and making tough policy decisions. But the work that I'm most proud of is the work that I do in the schools. And since my children's first day of school, I've been involved with their PTA, I've worked in the classrooms, and currently I'm the Council PTSA President for Lake Elsinore, which means I provide guidance and training for all of the PTAs in our school district. And that's given me the unique perspective of getting to work side by side with teachers and parents and students, and really seeing from the inside out what our schools need and what our educators need to be successful. My work with PTA has really inspired me to continue to be an advocate for children. Their motto is, every child with one voice. And I really believe that that one voice is made up of the community, which includes teachers and staff members and students and parents, all of us working together to be advocates for what's best for kids. And my goal is to help our students and our district employees meet the difficult challenges that lay ahead of us while returning a feeling of community and collaboration to our district. And I feel a real attachment to this community and to these students. I feel like a responsibility to do what's best for them. And my heart is here in this community and in these schools. So thank you.
Okay, and Ralph Hernandez.
Is this on? Okay, great. Again, thanks for inviting me to this event. I think it's great. I love the use of technology and trying to get the word out and allow people to see, kind of what it's like at the school board level. My name is Ralph Hernandez IV. Been living out here in this community since '99. I've been married now 15 years, and I wrote that. I got to make sure I get that one right. We have 4 children, 2 of which are in the school district, 1 in high school, 1 in elementary school at Elsinore, and we have 2 on the way. We have a 2-year-old boy, and we finally got the girl who's 5 months old now. So we're going to be, driving in and out of the schools and attending, board functions and school functions and back-to-school nights for a very long time. A little more about myself is I am a product of public education, a very proud product of that, having attended public school through high school. After that, though, I did have an opportunity to attend USC, fight on. I was an education major there, and when I graduated, I had a chance to spend almost 6 years in undergraduate undergraduate admission. So my job was to go out and do outreach for students and trying to tell them the importance of higher education, post-secondary education, as well as try to get them into the more competitive schools. Sometimes it was SC, sometimes it was other ones. I actually evaluated the applications, and that's definitely some background and knowledge that I think is going to help me in this role. I really do, even though now I'm in technology sales, I have taught for a while. I did spend time, being a substitute teacher, a full-time teacher in both elementary and middle school, and would like to get back to that someday. I feel I'm kind of an educator that has to play the role of a technology salesperson right now. I do have some experience. Actually, when I got out of college, I ran for and got elected to the school board in the district I grew up in out in South Whittier. So I spent 8 years as an elected school board member there. And, we were very forward-thinking. I was part of a good team that helped oversee a lot of positive changes to that district, both at test score, improved quality of facilities. Granted, it was a different economic time, though.
Okay. Right, wrap up. All right, I'm sorry. Our first question, and these responses are 1 minute, is going to be to the challengers. We'll start with Heidi. What qualifications will you bring to the board, and how will you help improve how the board operates?
Well, I think number one, I'm a parent with students in our district right now, so I'm working side by side already with students and teachers and parent leaders, so I feel like I'm bringing the voice of a parent. I think that's a very important qualification. I think I bring balance and proven leadership skills. I'm also a community leader. My professional skills of helping to balance budgets and work on a team and solving tough policy decisions. I think I also bring a very strong desire to work towards a strong relationship between the district and our community, our teachers and our students, our parents. I think that's something that I'm really good at. I'm a very active learner. I ask a lot of questions. And I always say I have big ears. I'm a really good listener, and I think that's something that's very important, a very good qualification for a board member.
Okay, Ralph, same question. What qualifications will you bring to the board, and how will you help improve how the board operates?
Okay, well, I think, as I mentioned briefly before, I do have experience in this role. And I consider myself a lifelong learner. So I always have an ear for new, innovative ways to get our kids from point A to point B, especially now when we're facing these tough economic times, because you have to be creative, having to do more with less. I also have that perspective of being a dad that dropped their kids off. Like I said, I have children in school now. They're going to be, and 2 more on the way. I'm out there in the community pretty much, on a weekly, if not daily basis. I'm a Cub Scout den leader. I have a bear pack now that's pretty active, as well as coaching soccer, which I've done for almost 10 years now. So, I'm in those roles because I enjoy being around children. I enjoy being around my own children, and I think that puts me in the community so I could bring that perspective, the things that I hear kind of every day, and bring that into the boardroom. So I think that's definitely a positive aspect. And I've tried to maintain and keep myself in those educational circles, both with other board members in other areas, people in higher education.
Okay. Yeah, we got to figure out a time mechanism here.
Red light, or
Well, we had timekeepers earlier. All right, we're going to slightly different version for the incumbents. What qualifications have you brought to the board, and how have you helped improve how the board operates? We'll start with Tom.
I think that my wife, as a teacher for 31 years, certainly has assisted me in terms of having the teacher perspective and the employee perspective. 25 years of being in business in management has certainly been an advantage in dealing with tough budget times and looking at the numbers. And while a school district is not a business, when you're dealing with finance, it always becomes a business because it's money. Being involved in the community, as heavy as I have been, has been very helpful in that I have the respect of parents, of employees, and I also have the respect of many community members as well. Being on a school board, as I said before, is a matter of making policy decisions, of helping set direction for the district. And because of my management expertise over the years in the communications business, I think that's been very helpful.
All right, thank you, Stan. Same question. What qualifications have you brought to the board, and how have you helped improve how the board operates?
I would probably classify the greatest qualification that I have is as a parent or grandparent of those who have been in Lake Elsinore Unified School District. There are plenty of people in Lake Elsinore that have passion for making sure that what goes on in the classroom is excellent. But I don't think there's any to have any more passion than I do for making sure that the kids are educated and that they enjoy their education and that they look for what they'd like to do in a lifelong venture. I think 33 years in the high school classroom was also a great education for me for qualifications to be able to understand what goes on. I think also the ability to build consensus among people and to try and make sure that we're all pulling in the same direction is something that I can bring to the board.
Okay, and Kim, same question.
Well, you know, one of the things that I bring to the table is my vast background in accounting. Over 30 years of accounting and dealing with multi-billion-dollar budgets at the corporate level. And the connection to the community, certainly as the Chamber of Commerce has been very active in the last several years, over 7 that I've been involved in making that connection with the business community and developing workforce opportunities for our kids so that they have some opportunities moving on directly from high school if they don't choose to go to post-secondary education. Connections with the community. We serve 3 cities and the county area as well as the community of Horse Thief Canyon, and we have a great working relationship with those individuals across all the agencies. We have articulation meetings every month to make sure that we're on the same page and identifying issues that are specific to each of those communities.
Okay, we're going to begin the next question with Stan. Lake Elsinore Unified is considering offering early retirement to veteran teachers. The assumption is this will save the district money, but it's also possibly viewed as a short-term solution that deprives students of experienced teachers. What's your opinion of this proposal?
Well, I not only have an opinion, but I'm an example of those that wound up taking that opportunity. And I have the same concern, I think, that many indicate that we are pulling experienced teachers out. As I visited the school sites, though, the energy, the abilities of the teachers that are replacing those of us who are leaving is I think, a great asset to it. It's a sad situation in a way that you take a veteran teacher out and you can buy 2 new teachers for that same price. And if those 2 new teachers weren't of quality, then I think it'd be a terrible idea. But I know that it's been a great opportunity for me, and I think it's been a great opportunity for the district.
See somebody hold something up, you know. All right, Tom, you haven't answered that one yet, right? Okay. You ready? We're back? All right. Tom, same question. Is early retirement for veteran teachers a possible cost saving, but also a possible short-term solution that deprives students of experienced teachers? What's your opinion?
Well, it's definitely a cost savings that is proved out over and over. I don't think it's as big a problem once you start looking at the bigger picture, because we have 1,100 teachers in the school district. And in any one year, if the supplemental retirement program makes financial sense, about 20 or 25 teachers will take that opportunity. So we're not losing by any means the majority of our teachers, but we do lose some good teachers through that. But they're to the point that they would probably retire within a couple years anyway. But to the advantage, as Stan mentioned, we do get to bring in younger teachers that will cost us less money. And oftentimes, those younger teachers are very qualified and are superb teachers in the classroom, and now they have an opportunity through the years because others have retired. So I think it really is a benefit.
Okay, Heidi, same question.
Well, yes, I understand that it's definitely a cost savings. And but because I went to this school district, I was really excited about the idea of of my children getting to actually learn from some of the great teachers that I had too. That was an exciting idea. But I understand that it's a cost-saving issue, and from what I've heard, it does work out well for all parties. And I would hope that any of those experienced teachers that would be retiring, we'd wrap our arms around them and find a way for them to still be of service to the school by volunteering and being able to mentor our new teachers.
Okay, Kim, what's your opinion?
Well, certainly the economics of the situation makes total sense. It's certainly one of the ways over the last 2 years we've been able to cut $30 million. Bottom line, and back to Tom's point, is very few teachers actually take that option on an ongoing basis. And to be honest, in the case of Tom's wife and certainly Mr. Crippen, they come back and volunteer or substitute teach, so we really haven't lost the expertise. We've grown a whole new population of individuals to help us out.
Okay, Ralph?
I agree with what I've heard thus far. I think ultimately it should be the teacher's choice, and definitely that option should be available. But one thing that I've learned is that the knowledge capital you have with your experienced teachers that have proven results, that's something that's invaluable. You really can't put a price tag to that. So if it's if they're ready to move on and they want to take that opportunity, great. I'd hate to think that as a board member I'm kind of helping push along somebody that might be in their prime. If they are ready to move along, though, then I think we need to find ways like using technology like this to kind of capture that magic that they have going on in the classroom so we could pass it on to those younger teachers. I mean, when you talk to younger teachers, one of the things that and I've been through this, you want to sit there with experienced teachers to see how do they do it. I mean, it's different than a book. I want to see it in the classroom. I think we'd have to capture the materials that they used, how they taught, whether it's video or whatnot, and try to find a way to get that so we can bring it to the new teachers. So that we don't lose, we're going to lose that person in there, but I don't want to lose all that knowledge and experience. I want to be able to capture that somehow.
Okay, I'm sorry, has everybody had a chance to answer that question?
Yes.
Yes, okay, all right. Next question will begin with Kim. In June, the district voted to make deep cuts that included eliminating positions and closing Butterfield Elementary School. If the district faces more cuts in future budgets, where will you look for cuts?
I think it's very important to keep it away from the classroom because, as we stated in our strategic plans, kids are our highest priority. So two of the things that we're looking at specifically are items that are encroachment on the general fund, which means that we're absorbing resources that if we can eliminate or reduce the cost, they'll help out. Those two areas are special education and transportation. And one of the big projects we're looking at is we have an aged fleet of buses that are diesel. We're looking at converting to compressed natural gas. We have 9 of those buses we purchased in the last 3 years, but we're at capacity on our filling station. So we need an infrastructure improvement. But every bus that we take off the road will save us thousands of dollars that we can put back in the classroom.
Okay, Ralph?
I agree with the fact that you do what you can to keep the cuts away from the classroom. I mean, that's as a board member, you're trying to protect what goes on in there. I think what I've seen is trying to find creative ways of moving kids around so you lessen the transportation need. That does reduce cost. I live out in Horse Thief, and one of the things that they're doing right now is creating that K-8 school. And I could see that there's some potential cost savings there, so you wouldn't have to make the cuts because now I'm transporting less students to a different middle school because I'm providing one there on campus. Granted, that's long term. Working, I guess, with the teachers as far as those that are thinking about retiring early and having that option, that's another way to go. Again, it isn't always about making cuts. I think it's about creatively trying to find ways to bring in other funds as well.
Okay, Stan, if the budget's facing future cuts, where would you look?
I think one of the biggest things that we need to do is to be proactive and going ahead and looking at positive ways of bringing income in. And I think one of those ways is our ADA. We have a great ADA now, but just even a slight adjustment and a slight increase can wind up bringing additional funds. It is so difficult when you look at the budget. There is a lot of money that is dedicated to the classroom, and that's where it really needs to be. But I think that if we can look for other areas outside to bring money in, I think that'd be a great asset.
Okay. Tom, if future cuts are necessary, where would you look?
Well, unfortunately, as we look at our economy and next year's state budget, it will look like future cuts will be necessary. This last year, our employees assisted us greatly through furlough days. I'm hoping that won't have to happen again, but I don't think we can rule that out. I think bringing extra revenue is very important, and this year we began a child care program in all of our elementary schools, which will bring in more than $500,000 of new revenue. So if we can continue to bring in more revenue, that means less cuts. I'm in agreement with the rest of the people here that cutting in the classroom is not an option. We must maintain our staffing levels. We must maintain our lower class size levels to have smaller classes in the elementary level. We must continue to offer the extracurricular activities that we offer, the band, the music, the choir, the sports. That's all very important to our child's education. So it'll be a tough budget year, but I think we'll all rally together and we'll do it again like we have this last year.
Okay, Heidi?
Well, I was invited to be part of the Budget Advisory Committee a few years ago, made up of community members and parents and district employees. And I think it's time again for us to engage the public to help us prioritize our budget and the things that we're going to be spending our money on. And I think I would specifically include experienced budget analysts to be part of that team to help us prioritize and make sure that we're spending our money wisely. And yes, we've had to make some painful cuts this year, and I really do appreciate how the district has looked at ways to generate revenue. I think that's very important, and absolutely increasing our ADA and our child care services and other programs. I think there are other programs we could identify that could help us increase our revenue and keep the cuts away from the classroom.
Okay, Heidi, we'll begin with you for this question then. Okay, ADA has been mentioned a couple times. What can the board do as policymakers to help improve attendance, reduce the dropout rate, address ADA?
Well, I think it's time for us to think really creatively about how we learn. I see that my kids learn very similarly to the way I learned. And I think it's time for us to really reach out to new technological advances so that we have more online classes, more classes that engage students and make them want to come to school every day, things that make them feel like they're really learning something that's going to help them in their life. And I think that's the key. The kids have to want to come to school. And we as a district have to reach out to them and recognize that we have to keep up with the times and we have to make school an engaging place to be.
Okay, Kim, your turn.
Well, back to the students, and it really is about engagement and relevance for the student. And some of the things that we've done recently is we've added the online courses for the students, and we're also increasing our career technical education programs. And we're offering a different articulations and credit recovery classes, because the worst thing for a student to feel is somehow that they have not solved the puzzle of being effective in class. And so you have to give them alternative methods that they can seek out help and be successful. And when you do and they're engaged, along with all the additional programs we have for enrichment, like music and sports and arts, they really have a feeling of belonging to the school district.
Okay, Ralph, same question. How can the board go about improving attendance and reducing dropout rates?
I think, and I'm hearing this theme, is you're basically trying to make school for the kids a bit more meaningful. I think we need to, you have to find out where you're losing the students and why that is. And it might be in a certain area where if the students feel that the academics don't have the rigor that they need, or the parents feel that way, they may choose to pull their student in a different direction or go to another district. The other thing too, a good example of this is also high school. I think you probably noticed that you can start losing a lot of interest. I noticed this when I was doing college admissions work, is how do you engage the students, especially those that may not be college bound? You do that hopefully by bringing in some meaningful vocational programs. Something that's going to make school that, I don't have the last 2 years of high school where I have half a day of classes and nothing left. If I have access to these young people for that time, I want to make the most of that. I think the other key here is counseling. We need to have these people that are in the roles of counselors to be able to know the students, give them the time and resources to know them more than just their schedules, to know what's going on at their homes and whatnot. And I think help with that, you'll see some good results.
Okay, Stan?
I think all of us can look back at our educational life and find one teacher, one staff member that's made a difference in our life. And during a previous budget crisis, one of the suggestions that I had made is going back to a type of a truant officer type of program where we had a staff member who was responsible to look at those who were not in good attendance and to work with them on an individual one-on-one basis to monitor them and help get them to school. And I think it would be a benefit for the student. I think it would be a benefit for our ADA.
Okay, Tom, same question.
Well, we have done a lot already in terms of we have alternative education at Ortega High School and at Gordon Kiefer, because all kids don't learn the same way. We're certainly looking at more virtual classes. I think what Ralph said is a good idea as far as adding counselors, because if you have more counselors, they'll become more personally engaged with students. I think a lot of it is tracking students carefully, so when you start to see some drop-off in terms of attending school, you deal with it right then. You don't let it get too far down the line. We have a program called SAFER, which helps families that are having difficulties, because if kids aren't having a good life at home or they're having difficulties at home, that often affects their attendance. And I think one other thing we can do is add more mentors from our business community to work with kids to show them why it's important to stay in school, because they start to get a better idea of just pure economically the difference of being in school versus dropping out of school, which becomes a lifetime problem that they have to deal with. So I think there are a lot of opportunities, and every time we keep a child in school one more year or one more day, it adds to our revenues, which of course helps our other financial situation as well.
Okay, we'll begin with Ralph for this question. We're gonna talk again in relation to cuts, and we're all in agreement that we don't want to cut from the classroom. So, we've covered that ground. Given that, what programs are so essential that you would not consider cutting from them?
Oh, I think one of the ones that I believe, and I heard it earlier, is special ed. If you could avoid cutting there, I think there's a number of reasons. A lot of it is compliancy. There's, our role as public educators is to try to teach every child equitably and try to give them as equal educational experience as possible. So I think, that's a lot of times an easy target, but I believe that's a part of the student population that we really can't forget. So I definitely would not want to, encroach on that one or try to, take funding from there. I think also one of the kind of the forgotten, I think, and easy to overlook populations where, budgets a lot of times just kind of flows right over are your gifted students. There's a feeling that they're kind of always going to be taken care of and they really don't have the issues and whatnot. But, I don't think that necessarily is true. Their families are hurting just as much as everybody else's. And, the resources shouldn't, be taken from them just to give somewhere else.
Okay, Stan, what programs are so important that you wouldn't go there in terms of cuts?
I think it's really important for us to take a look at the whole child, and you look at the arts, you look at music, you look at the athletics. These are the things that hook kids into school and make them enjoy it, which I think it winds up increasing our ADA and being able to help us finance the district. Bottom line, when you look at a school, what's not important? I mean, that's the hardest question of all as to what you're going to wind up cutting. But I think to try and make sure that we give a very eclectic opportunity for our students to see many different avenues of learning is very important.
Okay, Tom?
I'm not sure there are any places to cut anymore, because that's the bottom line. Difficulty, when 82% of your budget is salaries and benefits, that means you're operating the district on 18%. And I don't know where out of that 18% you're going to cut. We all sit here and say the arts are important, music's important, sports are important, vocational programs are important, and we offer 17 of those now. Today, I don't have an answer as to where the next round of cuts could be. It's going to have to come out of operations, because we have to keep the cuts away from the classroom. We're there for kids and the classroom, so that has to continue to be number one.
Okay, Heidi?
Well, I think the value of any program is not measured in dollars or in test scores. It's measured in how it helps the student achieve and how it helps the student develop. And that's what we have to look at. We're not just creating successful test takers. We're trying to create successful citizens and people who are going to be great contributors to our community. And there are countless programs in our schools right now that help all sorts of different children. I also believe that our GATE programs and our magnet programs that help our higher achieving students, they shouldn't be the first ones that are cut. I think all of our programs should be looked at equally and measure the value of that program to the students. And I think that class size reduction is very dear to my heart because I have a third grader, and I know how hard it is for a teacher to handle 24 students. So there are lots of great programs, but I would say class size reduction, career technical education, and our extracurricular activities.
Okay, Kim?
Well, again, I talk about anything that is an enrichment process for the students or engaging the students. You have avid, engaged, and advanced placement in music and arts and athletics, but also I've been a firm advocate for transportation. We are in a very rural area that I think is subject to some safety concerns, and I've seen other districts cut transportation, and I certainly don't want to see us do that. I think we can solve some of the budgetary issues by, again, going back and replacing that fleet with new technologies and cleaner technologies, and but I really think that's something that we need to stay away from.
Okay, Stan, we're going to begin with you. We've heard several references this morning to technology. Ramona High School in Riverside and Amelia Earhart Middle School in Riverside are piloting iPad programs in which curriculum is not through a traditional textbook, but through the iPad, e-reader, tablet. What do you think? Do you believe that students should be provided this type of technology, or do you think students should rely on traditional textbooks?
I don't think there's anything that feels better than having a book in your hands, but I think we also need to be wise in the respect of looking at this technology. The cost of textbooks is incredible. You have your loss factor. I think the interactive ability for this generation would be very important. I think for right now, at this budget time, it's a difficult question. I would want to see us look and possibly do a pilot where we wind up trying it, seeing how it works, and then move to it if it proves to be cost effective for this time until we have more prosperity. But I think it'd be crazy for us to not look at that type of a technology.
Okay, Tom?
We're already working with Verizon on a program to get hundreds of computers to students who don't have them now. And certainly whether it's an iPad or a PC or whatever, that technology is going to continue to grow. I think we need to work more with the publishers of textbooks to reduce the cost of offering the textbooks either online or via DVDs, because that should decrease the cost and obviously in the cost of printing books. It also just saves the kids' backs and walking around with pounds and pounds of books on their backpacks. I think it's certainly the direction to go. We're doing the same thing with our virtual classrooms. So I think that technology will ultimately replace books, not totally, but in large part.
Okay, Heidi?
Well, I also agree, as I stated before, that we really need to, education needs to keep up with the times, and we need to utilize the most up-to-date technology to engage our students, and if it's a cost savings to the district, then that's also very important. I know that my children are very engaged when they're reading things on the internet, a little more so than they are when they're reading a book. And I think we need to encourage them to learn no matter how it is, however they would like to learn. I think we need to encourage them to want to reach out and get new information and to learn in any way that we can. And I think there are lots of technological advances that can help us do that. And I would also like to take a look at the iPod and see how it would work in our classes.
Kim?
Well, certainly we find out that when we're in the classroom that the kids are a lot smarter than us with technology, and they're texting away and they are tech savvy. So the way back to engaging students is to make sure that this technology can be provided. Tom pointed out, though, the publishers pretty much want to send you a set of textbooks with a DVD so you can load the book. So there's really no cost savings, unfortunately, with that. But I think it's something that we definitely need to move forward to. We also have kids with learning disabilities, and one of the things that you'll see in an IEP is we're attempting to get that student textbooks either blown up so it's in bigger font so that they can see it, or in my case, I have one child that went to the Erland Institute and needed color filters. And with the iPad, you can do that online instantaneously. So you can really, the students can benefit from that technology immediately.
Okay, Ralph?
I absolutely think that moving in that direction is essential. I've heard this repeatedly, but I think, when you could have a traditional education feeling, and you could do that with new technology. I think, when there's definitely a case for maintaining and having the books and whatnot, but like Tom mentioned, so you have some, I see these backpacks that are monstrous. If I could get all of that onto an iPad, I would definitely look into that. And I think you need to kind of step back and do a cost benefit to see, all right, I know the cost of this technology, but what does it open up, and what do I not have to spend on now because the student has instant access to that? And the students know the minute you bring this type of technology in, it's automatically more relevant. Math becomes more relevant, language arts becomes more relevant because they're using a tool that they're already probably using in their pocket, just a smaller version of it. So I think you definitely want to move in that direction, but at the same time, your board policies have to reflect the safe use of that, which means you have to start being proactive at the bullying and online things and such in that nature.
Okay, we'll begin with Tom for our next question. The United States is lagging behind other countries when it comes to producing students with strong math and science skills. How can the school board help students become more competitive in those areas?
If you look at schools in Europe, early on in high school, students are taking aptitude tests to find out where their best path is in life in terms of their careers. And I think that's something that we should be doing. To be competitive, we have to start looking at what our competitors are doing well. And that's one thing they do. Also, not popular, but students today have much more to learn than we did, particularly when I went to school. We don't go to school enough hours anymore, and that's a hard thing to stomach. But if you look at our competitive nations, kids are going to school 8 to 10 hours a day. And then they have their sports and athletics and extracurricular activities after their school day. So I think we're going to have to look at longer hours at some point in time. We're going to have to look at what our competitors are doing in other countries, and we're going to have to start changing the way we offer school to our students.
Heidi?
Yeah, I agree with Tom. I think we really need to look at other ways to educate our students. And I think reaching out to our teachers right now, and they have some great strategies. We have some wonderful, fantastic teachers in our district who are doing some great things. And I think they need the opportunity to share those best practices with each other so they can learn from each other. We have great teachers now. We want to make our school district better. We can share those ideas amongst each other. And I think by analyzing that, we'll raise our level. And we absolutely, I think, cannot do with any less instructional days. I don't think we can shorten the school year. I think every day is important. Our teachers are working as hard as they can to fit that information into the school day, and I would hate for us to lose any additional instructional days.
Kim, what can the school board do to help students become more competitive in math and science?
Well, we're certainly looking at, we have a lot of advanced placement classes, but the district is in the process of establishing an international baccalaureate program at Temescal Canyon, which will have specific tracks and an international standards that will make those kids very competitive. Heidi made a good point about, really professional learning communities are an opportunity for us to share best practices. The problem we have is from a funding standpoint, because we do PLCs on a particular campus, but I've advocated for a long time to have a district-wide or county-wide PLC so that best practices are shared on a much larger format. But you have to pay for substitute teachers, and we're back to the budget issues. But I think, those conversations need to continue so that we can move in the direction of opening up those opportunities for our students.
Ralph?
I think one of the things that when you talk about, competitive nations, one thing I've noticed is when you talk about science, mathematics, there's a lot of collaboration that goes on with that. And I think we have to make sure that we remember that. I start off the mornings with developers talking to people in Korea about, things that we're going to do with software. So there's a lot of collaboration that goes on because, math and science, that's kind of a universal language there. What we need to do as a district, though, I think, is to maintain and reinforce, I guess, early access to higher levels of math and science. And we also need to support teachers that want to think out of the box and that have gone and studied and see, yeah, they do things differently in Japan. So if they try to replicate that, they need to be able to do it with the support, not kind of find a way to do it outside of that. And we need to support it, meaning that even if the initial result might be a hit in the test score. If the long term is you want to be competitive with those nations, then the long term is you need to be able to start not just tweaking, but kind of almost reinventing how we teach math and science, and be brave enough to do that, even if your test scores don't, show immediate results.
Okay, Stan?
This question has long been a source of irritation to me because in America we educate more of our people than anyone else. Other nations, to my knowledge, they're testing sometimes in elementary school, in middle school, in high school to determine where they're going to wind up going. And if you don't test positively, then your whole life is changed. To me, I appreciate what America does in the respect that we wind up giving our students the opportunity to be able to succeed, because some don't bloom until a later period of time. And I think it's important. And so I don't know that these comparisons are honestly fair in many regards, and I appreciate our opportunity to educate everyone. I think the other thing that we need to be very careful of is if we really are upset about that, then it's time to put our money where our mouth is. And we need to make changes at the state and the federal level that wind up advocating education more, instead of just bemoaning the fact that we're falling behind somebody.
Okay, we're going to begin with Heidi for this one. What can the district do to increase and improve parental involvement?
Oh, this is one of my favorites. I've been involved in PTA for a very long time, and I know that a parent's involvement can be a great indicator of a student's success. And I will make it, whether I'm on this board or not, it's going to be my lifelong goal to engage parents in our schools and our community in our schools. It's very important. We need to thoughtfully reach out to our parents and invite them into our schools, being part of committees. It's something, if I'm on the school board, I would like to hold specific office hours every week where parents can call me and share with me their ideas and tell me what they see going on. I want to have community forums and kind of kitchen table talks where parents can come and talk to me, and I'll listen and find out what's going on. I think that's what it is that parents just need to feel that their opinion counts and that we really want to hear what they have to say, and that's how I would engage our parents.
Okay, Kim?
Well, some of the ways is, again, back to technology. We certainly have created the online board agenda, which gets transparency to parents of what we're doing from a governance standpoint, and certainly from our board policies and procedures. We just introduced some new websites at all the school sites. It actually gives a parent an opportunity with students in multiple locations to have a unique calendar for their particular family. And we just brought up a new student information systems. And the importance about that is, I remember going to the classroom and back to school nights, and the teacher said, "Didn't you know?" I said, "Didn't I know what? That your daughter hadn't turned in their homework, or they were failing the class," because all those slips mysteriously never got home. And an online system that we have actually lets parents track their progress of their students. And it's back to those engagement points in the conversations with parents. And for 4 years now, my cell phone number and my email address have been listed, and I do hold office hours at the Chamber of Commerce for everyone to stop by and tell me what's going on.
All right. Ralph?
I think one of the things definitely is, and this is being married to a very active PTA mom, is trying to, at the district level, and I think they do a good job of this now, promoting that type of program. I think also at the school and site level, allowing the school and site to have more maybe site-based control and involving the parents in that, so they're not only involved they're involved in more than just, their one student and that one math test. They're involved in things that are going to affect the school in general. The use of technology. Parents have all kinds of schedules, and I know you're trying to do your best to monitor what's going on with your child. And I think, being able to, like School Fusion does a pretty good job of this, to be able to track what's going on with this, not just the student, but the school, and maybe kind of move forward with that. What are some other ways that we could better give access to parents that, are going to be working until 7, 8 o'clock at night to see what's going on and have some kind of conversation, with educators. The other thing, too, at the district level, I think, is you have to have some organized, and these aren't easy to do, but community outreach events where you're trying to get the stakeholders in the community to come in and give you and help you set your objectives and goals for a district. That's not easy. You put yourself out there, you take some lumps, but it's always well worth it. We did this at the district I was part of before, and the results were fabulous.
Okay, Stan, how can the school board help increase and improve parental involvement?
I think there's two aspects that I would like to focus on. Fortunately, I was a member of the school, and whenever I took my kids to watch their brother or sister play, we got in for free. But for a family to be able to do that, it would probably cost close to $50 for them to go. I would like to see us be very family friendly in the respect of how we allow our parents to be involved in their kids' activities, whether it's in drama, whether it's in athletics. I think in this difficult time of our time and our resources are so spent that I don't think a lot of parents are able to invest or involve themselves because of the recession and because of what we're going on. So I think we need to be careful there. I think also the improvement in technology and being able to have them access what's going on in their students' life. We have the ability to do it now and to do it in an easy way. And I just think to look for avenues that we can do that would be very helpful.
Okay, Tom?
Well, all 5 of us up here are parents, and all of us have good ideas. And the thousands of other parents out there also have good ideas. And we do need to reach out to them and ask opinions and talk with them. And technology is great. I'm in complete agreement with what we're doing on our websites and everything else we do. But boy, still nothing beats that face-to-face contact. And I think the more time we can spend either at our schools or with parents in individual meetings if they want to meet with us. I have an office at the sheriff's station. Hopefully parents will come in through the front door to visit me. But and that happens a lot where parents will stop by and say, I've got a question for you, or they'll call on the phone. So I think there are many ways, but certainly just plain reaching out to parents one-on-one can make a big difference.
Okay, Kim, this will be our final question. We'll start with you. As policymakers, what can the board do to improve any evaluation process for teachers, staff, and administrators?
Well, that's an excellent question because I'm kind of disturbed with the process that we have today. In some instances, they're more checkbox oriented. But what we really need to do is have a conversation with our teachers and administrators and staff members. And that conversation should be two-way about objectives and goals and strategies and making sure they're aligned with our strategic plan. And that we give them the due time to have the conversations and help build and be a part of that process. And that's something that Dr. Passarella has done over the last several years, is move us in that direction. But I think we need to do more in that vein to make sure that they have opportunities to talk about best practices. Especially with the teaching staff and professional learning communities, I think the frustration there is, again, time management. And so I think they have some great ideas that will help us move forward and make a district-wide PLC.
Okay, Ralph, same question. As policymakers, what can the board do to improve any evaluation process for teachers, staff, and administrators?
I think one of the things that is, and I think it's similar to what we do with students, is to kind of look at the body of work. I think many times we're very almost overly too reactive when so much emphasis is put on test scores, and I understand the importance of that. And there's people's careers that are based on that, and whether they're going to move up the food chain or not depends on how well that school does or those schools do, and it just kind of drills down. And I think that kind of thing sometimes hampers, it even kills the creativity of a lot of teachers. And I think we need to be able to, while that is one of the areas and the criteria that we look to evaluate, I also want to see what are the other things that they're doing that aren't necessarily being tested on, those 2 or 3 times, or, during the week, that week-long testing. Are these kids physically fit? Are they having an opportunity to sing, to dance, to draw, to hit all the multiple intelligences that these kids have?
Okay, thank you. Stan?
Could you repeat the question for
Yes.
me?
As policymakers, what can the board do to improve any evaluation process for teachers, staff, and administrators?
I think that we are in the accountability business. When you look at us, all we do is we account, we take care of papers, we grade, we evaluate. I think that it's important for us to have an accountability, but we all grow through feedback, and we need to have feedback from multiple sources. I know the greatest feedback that I ever received as a high school teacher was that of my students, that they had constant ability to be able to tell me in anonymous ways things that were working and things that were not, and I could make adjustments. I think in an evaluation process, I would like to see us reach out and expand who we receive feedback from our peers and professional learning communities, from administrators, from students, so that we can have a good ability to take a look at where we're doing and how we're impacting the entire school scene.
Okay. Tom, what can the board do to improve any evaluation process for teachers, staff, and administrators?
Well, we certainly have at least 2 groups of employees. We have our support staff, the classified employees, and we have our teaching staff. And I think the best appraisal process and evaluation process is 2-way. I don't think the employer just telling the employee what they want is the answer. I think we have to go both ways. When we do that, both learn more about each other, and there will be improvement because one comes to a common goal. I also think we have a difficult time in getting to the classrooms enough. When you have a single principal in an elementary school, it's hard for that principal to deal with all the issues they deal with and get to the classroom often enough to really know what that teacher does. So then there's a feedback issue there that needs to be taken care of. I think more time needs to be taken, more listening needs to be done, and I think with that, there'd be a big improvement in terms of expectations on both sides.
Okay, Heidi, as policymakers, what could the board do to improve any evaluation process?
Well, something that my company has done in years past is asked all of our employees to also do a self-evaluation at the time when their manager is doing their evaluation. And you really learn a lot about an employee when you see what they think they need work on. And that's their opportunity to ask for help or ask for additional support or mentoring. I think there needs to be that opportunity for the employee or to really reach out and to say, this is what I think I'm doing great and this is what I could use some help on. But I've spoken with many teachers about the evaluation process, and they believe that that's very good when it's done in a constructive way, in a supportive way, and the principal is really spending time in their classroom and seeing what they're doing. They said that the evaluation process works very well. But I think that's the main thing, is when it's being used as a very constructive tool to give support to the teachers.
Okay, now we will do our closing statements. We will do it in reverse order of the opening statements. So we will begin with Ralph Hernandez.
In closing, one of the things that, actually one of the reasons why I ran, and this was after a lot of consideration, a lot of interacting with parents that, saw me address the board and other issues and just heard me speak about things that I thought were important to our kids, was I understand, and I think we've done a good job of having our kids be good test takers. They just came in from awards night last night, and those are things to be very proud of, is kind of where we stand in regards to other school districts. But as a parent, I want to know, for leadership, what's the next step? What are we going to be able to do to hopefully assure that our kids have a successful life after they've graduated? What can we do to ensure that? And I think it kind of goes beyond, okay, we understand how to take tests, but what are the other things we need to do to be, just to be better in life, to become good citizens? The other thing too is also, I want to help rebuild the strained relationship between teachers and school employees. I saw how that happened during these contentious, financial times. We know that's going to keep happening as far as the money's not being there, but we could get from point A to point B and do it in a much more positive way.
All right, thank you. Heidi Dodd.
Well, I think that I'm going to be the fresh voice that fosters that communication between all stakeholders in our district, and the parents and the teachers and the community members, because I have a respect for all stakeholders. And I believe strongly in public education, and I'm passionate about our community and our students and our schools, and I feel a real responsibility to them. And I think I'll bring in accessibility to the board, and I would love to be that one voice that speaks for all children. And I'm going to ask at this time, I'm going to ask you to join me in please making a difference in our students' lives. Join PTA, go to meetings, be active, volunteer in your classrooms. It's very, very important to make a big difference. You can make a big difference in our schools, and I ask you to join me. Thank you.
All right, Kim Cousins.
Well, as President and CEO of the Lake Elsinore Valley Chamber of Commerce, we continue to develop a working relationship with our students and our local business community to develop our workforce. Preparation for our students to either move on to post-secondary education or to move directly into the workforce is extremely important to developing our communities and ensuring students maximize their full potential. I continue to engage both the business community and our students with programs such as Student of the Month, our annual education summit, Principal for a Day, State of the School District, a lunch program with our state representative, and others. I believe in fiscal responsibility. I have over 30 years of experience as an accountant and businessman. I will continue to use my business and management experiences to ensure that the school district is run efficiently and effectively and provides for a world-class education for our students. I've been very innovative in developing and implementing programs that have saved the district money or increased our communication with the general public. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Okay, now we'll hear from Stan Crippen.
I've spent my life serving, and I'm enjoying the service that I'm doing now. I think it's been a wonderful opportunity to sit on both sides, to sit and see where the teachers looking at the board, and now to sit as the board looking at the teachers. I feel like I know students. I feel like I know schools. I feel that I can offer a viewpoint that will help to better the district, better classrooms, that will build bridges, and I'm looking forward to doing that. I want to thank the press enterprise. I think this is a wonderful thing you're doing of reaching out to electronically so that people can access this.
Okay, and Tom Thomas.
Well, for 30 years I've been involved in Lake Elsinore. I've been involved with kids through Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, hosted exchange students. I'm executive director of Cops for Kids. So kids have been around all my life in Lake Elsinore. Our number one reason for being on the school board should be to help kids and give them the assistance they need for their education and to get on through their lives positively. I think in the past 6 years, we've seen our district grow great bounds in terms of certainly our test scores, the number of vocational programs we've added, weathering this tough budget, keeping our activities in terms of sports and music and arts, and keeping our teaching staff intact where we've had only 2 layoffs, I believe, all last year, very few classified employees. I think we've done a really good job. Our district has improved, and we will continue to improve. We've got solid leadership and a great staff, and I don't think this is a time to make a change on your school board. Thank you.
All right, I would like to thank our candidates for participating today. I'd like to thank the people here in the auditorium, and also like to thank everybody watching on PE.com. Would also like to thank our sponsors, the Beaumont Cherry Valley Recreation and Park District and Mount San Jacinto College. I'd like to thank our staff, Angel Ortiz and Louis Amistoy. All of these forums are available for viewing on demand on PE.com on the politics area of the website. Would also like to encourage everybody to vote on November 2nd. And then join us on the evening of November 2nd. We will have a live election show on PE.com, and those results will trickle in very slowly. So we will also have a recap show on November 3rd. Thanks to everyone. I'm Nels Jensen. Good day.